Good morning, guys. We are here to do the compare and contrast stories in the same genre lesson. I'm going to go through it with you. We're going to read two stories, one called Tiger and 10B and one called The Mountain Lion Mystery. I'll probably break this into 2 or 3 videos for the read to understand, and same thing for read to analyze. And then just like last week, you're going to be on your own for read to write. All right, we're going to look at how are mysteries solved? That is our first big question. All right, are you ready for our first read? It's important to read every sentence carefully. It's a big job, but don't worry, we'll do it together. I'll send you messages, and by the time we're done, you'll be an expert on this text. Let's go. With our second text. All right, but we're going to start with Tiger in 10B by Nate Truen. Rawr! What was that? Terry asked his older sister, freezing in his tracks by the elevator door. It sounded like a tiger. Oh, come on, said Elsa. We're in an apartment building in New York City. Roar! Run! yelled Terry, and they sprinted to their apartment at 10G, jumped inside, and slammed the door. Mom, there's a tiger in apartment 10B, shouted Terry. I highly doubt that, said Mom, because the only tigers in New York City are at the zoo. But Elsa wasn't so sure about that. New York was a huge city, where all sorts of people did all sorts of unusual things, and maybe some of them actually kept big cats as exotic pets. Elsa had to investigate, so she borrowed Mom's iTablet and did a search. Remember, this word is blue because if you click on it, it tells us that exotic means unusual and from a place far away. So it would not be from like the US, it would be from another country. All right, let's click on our first, this section. Yikes, she cried, seeing that there were lots of stories about wild animals in apartments. Could it be that only a few steps down the hallway there was a dangerous beast lurking behind the door to 10B? The word beast, meaning a large and dangerous animal, and it's lurking, meaning that it's hiding and waiting until it can do something bad, right? It has a negative connotation to be lurking. All right, let's read our first question. She said, our mystery begins. What does Terry think he hears? A tiger, a door slamming, or an elevator? Well, he hears that roaring and he thinks it is a tiger. That's just a regular text-based question there. The author tells us that Mom doubts there's a tiger in the apartment. Select the highlighted text that explains why Mom doubts there's a tiger in apartment 10B. So why does she think that that's not likely to have a tiger in the apartment? She says, I highly doubt that, said Mom, because the only tigers in New York City are at the zoo. So we're looking at where Mom's talking here. This is Elsa and what Elsa thinks could be happening when she goes and looks at the iPad too. Mom's saying, no, there's not tigers around here because we live in New York City, and in New York, they're going to be at the zoo. So Terry's mother doesn't think any wild animals are living in an apartment building in New York City. But what does Elsa think? Why does Elsa doubt that Mom is right? She thinks that she heard a tiger in the apartment building. She thinks that some people in New York City might have pet tigers. She thinks that a tiger might have escaped from the zoo. Well, they did think that they heard, well, Terry thought that he heard a tiger, but even more so, as we are reading here in this section, and she did her research, it said, well, all sorts of people did all sorts of unusual things. So she's thinking that in New York, maybe people do like odd things. There's all kinds of people, and maybe some of them have exotic pets. So she thinks that maybe somebody in New York might have an actual pet tiger. The next morning, Elsa went to the basement to ask the building superintendent, which is someone who's like in charge of the building, they're like the building manager, about the tenant in 10B. New guy named Bledsoe, said Mr. Garfunkel, filling a recycling barrel. I helped carry 4 giant bags of dog food to his apartment yesterday. Giant bags of dog food? Elsa said with a frown. Then why haven't we heard any barking? Elsa was sure she had a full-blown mystery on her hands, leading her to wonder, could one tiger eat as much as 4 dogs? Why not? Back on the 10th floor, as Elsa crept by 10B, she suddenly heard scratching sound from the other side of the door, like claws tearing at the metal at the very top. Elsa sprinted back to her apartment and slammed the door. Oh, for goodness sake, said Mom, what now? There's definitely something scary in 10B. Don't be silly, said Mom. Mr. Bledsoe, who just moved in there, is a very nice man. And in fact, he just invited us for dinner tonight because he wants to meet his new neighbors. We can't go. His place isn't safe, cried out Terry. Elsa and her brother looked at each other nervously. Would this be their last meal? Mom just shook her head and chuckled. Hours later, when Mr. Bledsoe opened the door to welcome his guests, Elsa and Terry peered in cautiously, as if expecting a wild beast to pounce at any second. Suddenly, an enormous dog jumped on Mr. Bledsoe's back and licked his head. Oh, good, not a tiger. All right, let's click over here. All right, so she wants to know if there's a dangerous beast. She's looking for clues. How are the mysteries solved? Being our big question here. Pepper Jackie is typing another question. Select the highlighted text that tells what Elsa does to learn about the tenant in 10B. So what does she do to kind of start to solve this mystery? How is she finding clues? Let's look back at our first paragraph. The next morning, Elsa went to the basement to ask the superintendent about the tenant in 10B. So, in order to solve this, in order to figure out more about him, she goes and asks the building manager, the person in charge of the building, like, who is this guy? Where is he? Why is he have all these noises coming from his room? Kind of letting them know what the mystery might be.